Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning. This is Thursday Morning Live, 8:30 every Thursday morning, 8:30 Central Time. Hey, listen, our focus really is on Chicago and a Chicago celebrity, a Chicago individual who's a business owner, entrepreneur, real estate professional, multifamily professional, whatever. But we're really trying to focus in on the Chicagoland area with this little live in the morning. So I'm glad that you're here today. Thanks for joining us. If you're new to the broadcast, thank you for being here. Please go and tell somebody that we're here. And I just want to invite you to use the comment, use the chat, say hi, let us know where you're from. If you have a question for my guest this morning, please do that. One thing I always do is every week I start the show the same way, right? And I want to know what your intentions are. What are your intentions for the day? Did you get up today? How about your daily disciplines? Did you exercise? Did you pray? Did you meditate? What did you do that really is going to affect your day and affect the way you start your day and your day moves forward? How about intentionality? How about gratitude? Are those things that you looked at this morning that you sat down and really spent some time with so that you can hit your day on the ground running very effectively? Well, listen, I want to talk about a couple things. Coming up June 5th, I have a 5-day multifamily challenge. We're gonna go live in a Facebook room, in a pop-up room on Facebook that we created. It will be 5 days about multifamily, 7 p.m. Central Time for 5 nights in a row. Day 5, we're going to have a live question and answer period. We're going to talk about raising private capital on day 5. Prior to that, we'll talk about structure and development of multifamily and how we build that business. So follow us on social media, whether it's LinkedIn here or on Facebook, whether it's YouTube, subscribe to the channel, because you never know where we're going to pop up with some relevant content for you that could help you throughout the day or help you in your business. So I'm here to share and I'm here to give that to you. So if you want to reach out to me, don't hesitate to do that. Again, I see a few people online here this morning already. Thanks for being here. You may want to go tell somebody that we're here this morning and that we're going live. We would love to have them and you join us. So comments, questions, throw them in the chat this morning. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're from. Okay, let me introduce my guest real quick. I am excited this morning about my guest, Rafe Weigel. Boy, we met several months ago on a clubhouse room early in the morning with Stephen, the 413 room, if you have never been there. But Rafe and I kind of just started talking, and he's got a history that you're going to want to really hear this morning. And I think that if you're a Chicago person, you'll know the roots and you'll really understand where he's coming from. But hey, good morning, everybody who's out there online, Chad and Cynthia and Cheryl. Glad that you're here this morning, Manuel. And go tell somebody else that we're live and to get them here. But Rafe Weigel, he's with WMG Communications. He tells companies stories to help them build their revenue and to connect them with their ideal client. Let me bring Rafe in. Let's talk to him about that. Hey, Rafe, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I was just emailing Chad Coe, who's watching us. He was one of your previous guests, so just making sure he's on to support us. Mike, it's great to see you again. It's great to reconnect with you. It was a wild circumstances how we kind of connected on Clubhouse, and we're practically in each other's backyards here, a couple of Chicago guys. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. So, hey, Rafe, before we dive into anything, one thing I always like to do is I like to ask my guests in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
One word is tough, but storyteller. But I'd like to qualify it by saying humble storyteller. And I think that's a big differentiator between having worked in TV news and TV media and now moving into the space of telling businesses and nonprofit stories. A lot of folks in the media, and I was guilty of it as well when I was involved in it, is we come under the illusion that it's about us. And the pressure, that we have to get eyeballs, we can get really kind of caught up in, that we're the story and we're not the story. It's the story. The hero of every story is always the audience. It's always the viewer. And when you are telling the stories for businesses and nonprofits, it's not about me. It's about them, and it's about connecting them with their customers. So it takes a real humble approach to be able to do it well. And that was, I'm not going to say it was a skill, but it was definitely a paradigm shift for me coming out of TV news that I really had to exercise on a regular basis.
Yeah. I can only imagine. Hey, so for people who don't know, Rafe, who you are and your history and that, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and how you got to doing what you're doing today?
Well, I come from a family of storytellers. We Weigels. It's like everybody has a certain thing that they're good at. We're the druid class for the Dungeons and Dragons geeks. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. And when my dad, he was an iconic sportscaster in Chicago. He passed away 21 years ago at young age, 56. I firmly believe that he is the man that Will Ferrell based Ron Burgundy on. If you Google Tim Weigel, he'll come. There'll be a picture of him with a red burgundy jacket with a mustache. And Ferrell actually was in Chicago studying at Second City in the early 90s when Bill Curtis was my dad's news anchor at CBS 2. So when my dad passed away, before he did, he made it very clear he expected me to carry on the family tradition. And so I went on this Oedipus Rex-like quest. 17 years it took me to finally become a news anchor in Chicago. And unfortunately, Mike, and this is, a cautionary tale for a lot of people, I was so consumed with my professional success that I didn't put any energy and effort into my personal well-being, my spiritual well-being. I ended up in Chicago anchoring in Market 3. I'd fulfilled my dream. My marriage fell apart. My son moved to Vegas with his mom. The woman I fell in love with post-divorce, I left behind in St. Louis, and I was miserable. And the reason why is I was following someone else's story. As much as I loved my father, that was his story for me, right? And I was stepping into a role that was ego-driven. And I crashed and burned. And you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. It taught me, and this is true, I tell businesses a lot, the days of your personal brand and your business brand being different are over. They are one in the same now. You have got to look at those two things as synergistic. And it got me to really think about, why did I get into journalism in the first place? What did I really love about it? It was the storytelling. And look, I'm not going to knock my former industry. It's passé to do it. It's cliche. But local news isn't really interested in good stories anymore. If it bleeds, it leads. That's pretty much it. And I'd get a lot of press releases from companies going, hey, we've got this great story. And my station did not have the resources to cover it. We had 2 reporters to cover the entire region of Chicago. That's a shooting on the south side and snow on the north side. That's the way they think. And so I thought, how can I bridge that gap? I mean, I looked at PR as not a waste of money, but a big challenge. Getting the media to tell your story, I don't think that's a worthwhile endeavor. I think that's a waste of your marketing dollars. So if we could create a model where you can pay the media to tell the story that you want to tell, not the story they're going to tell, and you own that story, maybe I could do something. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, boy, you sure said a lot. And Tim, I'm a guy that, listen, when I watch the news, which is very rare, I only watch the sports. So I remember your dad, right? I grew up with your dad, and I still get chills when I think about his passing, but I always remember him showing up at a high school game in the helicopter. Mm-hmm. And, there was just something about that era when we were growing up,
And just for your viewers to clarify, so every Friday night, well, not every Friday night, during high school football season, he'd hop in a helicopter and he'd fly to a various high school. They'd land the helicopter on the football field. He'd run out. So the quarterback would throw him a pass. And every Friday night, he would call me. I was out in LA at the time. I was at the LA Times. And, I was being an actor at that point. I went into journalism afterwards. And he always called and said, hey, if I don't make it, I just want to let you know I love you. He always thought he was going to die in that era. I don't mean to laugh, but he always thought this is it. I know I'm going to go down, but that's what he did for his job. He never, obviously, as you know, the helicopter crash didn't take him away. Cancer took him away from us. So sadly,
hey, it's like this. You and I have the same passion that he had for his job, and I think that that's what grows businesses and those situations, is because you have that passion, and that just always came through. But I don't I had lunch with my mom yesterday, and in the midst of it, she's talking about, hey, have you seen this school shooting on the news? Right. And she was almost surprised that I said, Mom, I haven't watched the news in years. And I just don't do it because, like you said, it's shootings on the south side, snow on the north side, and
which is almost every day in Chicago. I mean, let's be real.
I know. And how much of that can you put into your brain before it starts to affect you? Hey, really quick, let me just say hi to some people. Jeff, welcome this morning. Glad that you're here. Cheryl, you know what? Next time you do come to Chicago, look Tim and I up. We'll have coffee or lunch or something. I'm glad that you're here. We've got people on from Austin, Texas, Cynthia, and Cheryl from Boston. So glad that you're here this morning. We'll give you a little bit about Chicago and some history in that. So, hey, Tim, so here's what I'd like to know. You know, you're a storyteller and you like to help businesses create revenue. So let's talk about some stories a little bit. What can you share with us?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you. You calling me by my father's first name is a high honor. I will take that as a huge compliment. And I will just go back to what you said is my father did have tremendous passion. And one of the reasons why he was so successful, and this goes to answering your question, was that he was passionate about delivering for the audience. At the end of the day, he understood he was there to serve the audience. And his entire shtick was geared towards that. He was the very first local sportscaster to start doing bloopers in 1977 because he looked at that as sports as entertainment. He worked his tail off to produce what was called, as you remember, the Weigel Wieners, where he would take these, the athletes screwing up and, throw a Three Stooges clip in there. And I remember the stress that it caused him, but he knew the audience loved it. So when I talk to clients and customers and I want to tell their story, and this is the biggest mistake that companies make, especially when it comes to PR, when I get the press releases, you're not the hero of your own story. And I can't take credit for that verbiage. That's actually Donald Miller building a story brand. He wrote in a book what we journalists inherently know, which is that we're not there we're there to tell your story, but for the benefit of the viewer. But you do play an integral role. The role you play is you're the guide. You are the Miller analogy. He says, your company is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, but your customer is Luke Skywalker. And when you're telling your story, and I'm a huge proponent of visually telling it in video marketing. Yeah. And the reason to me, video marketing is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. And my why for that is my son, my teenage son who is on YouTube, who I know if you're not on YouTube, he's not going to know who you are and he's not going to buy from you in 10 years when he's making the buying decisions. But telling the story in a way that helps them understand how you solve their problem, that's what it's going to take to connect you with your ideal customers. And that's the other thing about storytelling. It's going to weed out the bad leads, if you will. It's going to connect you with people. It allows you to be in thousands of places at once and let people get a chance to know you. I don't know, Mike, you're a seasoned business guy. It used to be 7-8 touch points. I've read it's up to like 16 touch points now that you need before a customer buys from you. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Well, here's what I do know is that I sold residential real estate for a number of years, and follow-up is always the key. I always teach the people that I'm coaching is, hey, the money's not in the initial contact as a salesperson, but the money is in the follow-up. And you're right. It used to be 7 times, but now I've heard that it's like 12 times.
It's up there. It keeps growing. And here's the other thing, we're all making our buying decisions in the digital space. There's an excellent book also that I'm going to reference that has been my blueprint for what I'm doing. It's called They Ask, You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. And the idea is that, his point is, 90% of all buying decisions are made virtually online before anybody picks up the phone, sends an email, or contacts a salesperson. Your products and services and any question that your customers might have need to be answered. And he's very clear on this in video and written form. The written form just serves as SEO, as a backlink, as a way to get them to that video. But the video of them, and I'm saying like not a video, I'm saying a story. Like they need to be able to look you in the eye. I'm not a big proponent of spokespeople and voiceover. I want that CEO sitting in a chair, looking not necessarily right into camera, but at least in an interview style, explaining their purpose, their process, their proof of expertise, and how they solve problems for their customers. And I like those also in different assets, broken up. Create the episodic content model. That's why you're so smart for doing this, Mike, on the LinkedIn. And and that's the other thing. You're doing this as a service to your viewers, right? I always tell clients the best way to get business, give it away for free. And that's hard for a lot of people. Give me a video where you teach me something that normally I have to pay to get that knowledge. And that's going to help me build trust with you and ultimately lead me to, because that one area of expertise you're sharing, hopefully you got more to offer than just that. So, I think that's really key in today's digital age and breaking through the noise. Another great book, Break Through the Noise.
Yeah, you're right. I read that one. And hey, I want you to talk about TikTok in a minute, but you talked about pictures, right? And your pictures are more in video context. Right. But I love when I stand on a stage and I tell my story, and you know my story. But I love when I stand on a stage and tell my story, and I can take people to that place of what it was like, what the success was like, what all the loss, of losing $100 million company was like, and what the redemption's like, and if you can do that in pictures, I think that's what makes people a great storyteller. And I don't necessarily know that it's something well, here, let me ask you, do you think it's something that people have innately in them, or do you think it's something people learn over time?
I think it's something you can learn, but I think it's something you can learn. When people say I'm not a great storyteller, I'm going to tell you right now, when I started in TV news, I sucked. You asked my former producer at ABC7, he's like, dude, and he'd tell me, you suck. And I would really, because I was so nervous and I was so focused on living up to the expectations of being Tim Weigel's son, I was so in my head. Once I let it go and just did the job and recognized that you don't have to be perfect, and that's what I tell people. Be authentic, be yourself. I had a boss one tell me, he said, the key to being a successful performer on camera is unapologetically be yourself. If they like you, great. If they don't, F them. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to connect you again with your ideal audience. So, my business model, ultimately my goal is to, and I'm not trying to say this as a salesperson, I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of where I think the industry is going is, from one shoot, I have one client I'm doing 20 videos from, and we did from one shoot, and it's going to create, 20 posts for him on YouTube and LinkedIn. But then eventually I want him to do it on his own. Eventually I want to outfit him and empower him. And that's what I want to do for my clients. Do this on your own, get consistently and do it, because I do feel, and you mentioned TikTok, and I'll get to that in a second. I feel the sweet spot when it comes to video marketing is finding that balance between quality and quantity. I don't know that I'm a big proponent of spending $50,000 on one super slick polished video and then being done. Yeah. I don't think that's going to help you. I think if you can take that money and create episodic engagement, ideally over 6 months to a year, then you're really going to be able to reap the benefits and the rewards of long-term engagement, building an audience on your digital channels on social media. TikTok is fun. I sat through a content creation webinar recently with a millennial, and he was talking about sending out memes and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, maybe I'm old fashioned. I just don't think that's going to move the needle. I don't care how cute you are. I want to, what can you do for me? And you throw in a cute meme with the picture and a guy with the lawnmower and it's like, what does that teach me about you? What have I learned? I'm not, and that's why, teach me something in 1 minute. That's it. 1 minute. I'm doing a video for a client now. They want it to be we want it short, 5 minutes. Nobody's going to watch that video.
Right.
They're going to be done 1 minute. They're out. So better to break that up over 5 assets.
Do you follow Gary Vee? And
I do.
Hang on 1 second. Listen, anybody who's out there listening this morning and watching this, if you have a comment, throw it in the chat. I'd like to hear what you have to say about pictures and video and where the world's at with that today. And how do you build that client base, just like we're talking about. But throw a comment in the chat about that if you would. So go ahead and answer that, Tim.
Yeah, Gary is, Gary's a pioneer. I mean, my gosh, the guy's, I've read his books and, and he really leverages social media as a tool. But I think that people look at that and go, oh man, I don't have the bandwidth to be posting that much stuff. I don't think you have to be posting 6-7 times a day and every single thought that you have. I think when it comes to a business, I really prefer a more strategic approach so that every single, and plus, certain things like LinkedIn and with Twitter, the more you post, the more you get, but you can also lose followers. by
Yeah.
spamming them too much. People go, oh, it's too much. I don't care what you had for breakfast. Don't send me a picture of what you ate for lunch. I don't care.
Yeah.
But, if you got something insightful, and yes, memes that are insightful, memes that, maybe have an inspiring word in there, or a bit of wisdom of some kind, like that is good stuff. I do suggest doing that and augmenting that with a video. So that, to me, you're right. Like a picture strategy with something educational or inspirational or insightful into what your values are, that's a very effective tool. In social media management, people will do that for cheap. $700-800 you're going to invest in, have somebody, that I wouldn't rely on them necessarily to create your content, but definitely to manage it, post it, hashtags, A/B testing, that kind of stuff. Every time I work with somebody who does videos with me, I always refer them to a few social media managers. Google ads, YouTube ads, they work as well. They're very smart. And I look at basically like for the money that you would normally spend with a PR firm, $5,000 to $10,000 a month, you can produce quality content that are story driven and reach the same number of eyeballs as if ABC7 or WGN did your story, but you'll have analytics. You'll have an opportunity for a dialogue when they comment or like it. You can engage with them. You can get leads from that, as opposed to like a TV station doing your story. It just goes into the ether. So that's kind of my take on it. You can tell I'm a little down on traditional PR, even though we do traditional PR.
Yeah.
We do it, but our model is different in that we start with the content first. Because I've talked to a guy. Here's a case in point for your people wanting PR. I talked to a guy at a local TV station, and he said, I always open your emails because they have videos in it. He's like, anytime I see the word press release in the subject line, he's like, I delete it. If I see video in the subject line, I'll open it. So now even the media, if you're not including media with your press release, you're wasting your money. And I don't mean to be harsh about it. And I know some PR people might get angry because connections do help in that space. Yeah. They do help. It's good to have good connections, people who trust you, but it's connections and it's content together.
Well, listen, I can't believe how quick the time went here this morning. And
I can talk, man. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, hey, listen, that's two of us, and it's surprising for me to stay quiet. So good job keeping me quiet, Rafe.
Well, that's I've been told, dude, you let me get a word in edgewise. So I'm sorry if I.
No, you're good. You're good, and you covered a lot, and I hope people got a lot. And you know what? If you missed it, it's going to be on YouTube. You can go back and download it and listen to it later again. And Tim or Rafe,
that's okay, man.
I apologize. Rafe, we'll get you a copy of that later as well. But for people who are coming to Chicago, visiting, in Chicago this year, there's a couple of events going on. If you're coming to Chicago and going to spend some time here, your favorite tourist attraction here, Rafe?
Oh man, big fan of the Shed Aquarium. Just love it. It's so great. The only one that rivals it is Atlanta. I'm going to be taking my son there next week. And look, Chicago gets a bad rap. Let's be honest. I don't want to bury the lead here. It's crime everywhere. But at the end of the day, I love it here. And I always feel safe. Maybe I'm a fool. I mean, maybe it's just habitual because I've been around it for so long. You know how to spot trouble. You know how to stay away from trouble. I maybe that's naive of me. I consider this to be, a safe city. I get it. We've got a bad rap. And you read about the stuff every now and again. But, get to Wrigley, even though it's an overpriced ticket and the Cubs are terrible, it's a great experience. So I'm a big fan of and just get on the lake. It's free, right? Other than getting there for, parking and taking a lift. But that lakefront is just gorgeous. The guy, I think it was Burnham, after the Chicago fire, rezoned the city. And he said, I don't want us to be like New York. And he designated the entire lakefront as park. And wasn't going to allow any building. Otherwise, we would have had buildings right up to the water. Yeah. And he really did us a great service when he did that about, whatever it was 150 years ago.
And Burnham Harbor is a great place to walk around at or ride your bike by. How about favorite restaurant?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Chicago Cut Steakhouse. So you're going to spend a few bucks, but it's right there on the water. I absolutely love that place. I've never regretted having a meal there. The Wiener Circle, if you want to go in there and get, they verbally abuse you when you come in, but it's part of their shtick. They're also very funny on Twitter, the Wiener Circle.
Are they even open anymore?
Yeah, they're
Over
open.
on
No, their
Clark
Twitter
Street?
accounts. Yeah, they're open. It's right on Clark, between Fullerton and I want to say North Avenue. No, yeah. Anyway, just south of Fullerton on Clark Street, or wait,
Yeah.
north of Fullerton. North of Fullerton.
I thought they sold out, turned it down, building a high rise, but maybe not. Maybe
No,
I'm wrong.
oh my gosh, yeah, I just drove past it like a week ago. Yeah,
Okay,
between Diversity
okay.
and Fullerton on Clark. They're still on Twitter, and I love following their Twitter account.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Hey, Rafe, it's been a pleasure this morning. Thanks for being here. Tell people how they can connect with you if they want to have you come and tell a story.
Oh, I mean, I just love meeting people. You know, one of the things about being a journalist, last thing I'll say, I know we're running up against the clock, is when I was a journalist, you know, my focus of the world was this big. My actual world was this small. What I've loved now about being a solopreneur and an entrepreneur is meeting other business people. I learn from other people's ideas. I love having just conversations. So just find me on LinkedIn, Rafer Weigel, RaferWeigel. I'm the only one on LinkedIn. So you send me, I'm not one of, I connect with anybody. I don't, meet people like, well, I got to meet you first before I connect. Who cares? Are you that special? I'm not that special. And then send me a message and let's talk. I always love learning from people who, I'm a big believer in diversity of thought, and I only know what I know, and I know basically three things, and I don't really know anything else. So I like learning from other people smarter than me.
Yeah. I always say that if you're the smartest guy in the room, you got into the wrong room and time to change.
It's true. It's true.
Hey, Rafe, thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate you. I appreciate your candor and your ability to keep the audience attention. Hey, I'm going to move you to the green room. If you hang out with me for a couple minutes, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for being here. Hey, everybody. That was my guest, Rafer Weigel. Longtime history in Chicago. Glad that you were here this morning listening in. I want to say hi to everybody that was online. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the comments this morning. If you know somebody who would be a great guest, a Chicago entrepreneur, a leader, somebody in the real estate business, maybe a restaurant owner that wants to be on, I would love to have them on Thursday Morning Live as my guest. So if you know anybody, please send me a referral or send them to me, and we can talk about getting them on. This morning, we talked about telling stories, right? How important it is to just paint a picture for people when you're telling them a story. If you can make them feel like they were there in that place when that story was going on, it attracts that attention for them. So I'm really glad that this morning happened, that you were here. I'm grateful for that. Remember, I have a 5-day multifamily challenge coming up June 5th. Starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. If you're a multifamily investor, whether you're an active or a passive investor, and you would like to learn a little bit more about the real estate space and maybe how to offset some of the inflation that's going on and the cost of gas right now, reach out to me. I'll get you set up so that you can join that event. It's a free event for 5 days, and you'll learn a lot. So, hey, thanks for being here. Please tell somebody that we're here every Thursday morning at 8:30 Central Time, and I'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. Make it a great week. It's Memorial Day. Enjoy